case you're wondering where I am. But today I'm sitting here because I wanted to share something a little different with you guys. Since we're approaching Valentine's Day, I thought it was the perfect time to share with you some of my favorite books on the topics of love, relationships, and marriage. So before I start the video, I just wanted to say that this video is not just for people that are married or in relationships or engaged, but it's actually for anyone who, wants to know themselves a little better and who wants to apply that knowing themselves to their relationship, their next relationship, or just the relationships around you. They're kind of about interpersonal relationships too. Some of these are just books that I think everyone should read no matter what stage of life you're in. So with that being said, let's get started. The first book I have on my list is a book that I think is really good for people who are, maybe this one is more geared to the ladies, but it's perfect. I think if I had a younger sister, this is a book that I would give her because I read it when I was in my 20s and I was just kind of starting to date and things like that. And it's called Think Like a Guy by Guiliana Depandi, and now she's Juliana Rancic. So she wrote this before she was married to Bill Rancic, and it is a great book. First of all, I love Juliana Depandi Rancic. This is the first introduction I had to her as a person, but I think she's hilarious. She's an amazing, talented writer, and she just talks about, simple things and common sense too, but it's just told in a way that's just so hilarious and funny. But some of the tips she gives, for example, don't obsess over babies and puppies, and avoid celebrating every single occasion. Keep your family out of your fights. One of them I remember was like, let your boyfriend go to Vegas. It's not a big deal. And they're just hilarious things. The way she writes, honestly, once you pick up the book, you'll realize what I'm talking about, but it was just so entertaining. I actually laughed out loud. And I just remember this so fondly, and that's why I still keep it on my bookshelf, because if I come across somebody like a younger cousin or, a younger friend or somebody that I think is going through something where this book might be helpful, I just pass it to them because it's such a good book. It makes you laugh. And it just makes light of certain things that maybe girls can tend to take too seriously at times, and shares the ways that you can think like a guy and just kind of chill on certain things and certain aspects of relationships. And I just think it's hilarious. It's funny. It has some good insight too, and definitely a good read. So that one's the first one on my list. The next book I have here is by Marie Forleo. And Marie is an amazing businesswoman. She's very savvy. She's an incredible coach. And I came across her now recently as a business person and just looking for inspiration. And she's amazing. If you haven't checked out her YouTube channel, you should. But I didn't realize that I owned a book that she had written before I even, connected the dots. So the book is called Make Every Man Want You. And I wish that she had called it something else because it's kind of misleading about what this book is about. I know some people might be turned off by the title and not even pick it up, but it's actually a really good book about defining who you are as a woman and who you are as a person. And I think it should really be called like finding yourself before you find a relationship, or like becoming your best self or something like that, because it's really about a woman finding herself to be irresistible and then exuding that outwards before she even enters a relationship. So in that sense, I think it's a really important book to read, and I wish it wasn't called this. But Marie Forleo, an amazing writer, business coach, mentor. You should check her out if you haven't already, and this book is awesome. The next book on my list is for the men and the women, and it's called Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. An excellent read. I know it seems a little hokey because it's like so popular and almost overly popular. You might just like say, no, I'm not going to read it. But actually this book is incredible. It has so much amazing insight. Some examples would be, when you're down on something as a woman, you want to talk about it, you want to vent about it. If you vent about something to your girlfriend, she's going to say, oh my gosh, that sucks. I totally know how you feel. That happened to me. I would feel the same way, blah, 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 blah. If you talk to a guy, he would say, oh, whatever, it's no big deal, just do this. And that's one of the major differences, like one of the differences they outline here. And it's a result, like it results in a lot of problems and a lot of conflict between men and women, because you're just kind of like, oh my gosh, why doesn't the person understand me? Why don't they have sympathy? Why don't they have empathy? What's wrong with them? This is so annoying, etc., etc. But really, it's just like the way that they think, the way that you think, it's just different. So understanding those differences and learning to kind of live with them and acknowledge the fact that we're from different planets, I think is a really awesome thing. And it's a great book, a great read. It's funny, it's interesting. Highly recommend this. The next book is my #1 favorite book, probably the most influential book I've ever read, ever, in any topic, and it's called The 5 Love Languages. I've talked about this before on my channel, I know, but I want to talk about it again because I think if you're only going to choose one book from this list, you should definitely choose this book to read. It's amazing. It's all about how people speak and receive love in different languages, in different ways. So there's 5 different languages. They are words of affirmation, quality time, receiving and giving gifts, acts of service, and physical touch. You might already know off the bat which one you are, but if you don't, you should definitely take the quiz on the website 5lovelanguages.com, and I'll link it below, but it is amazing. It's free to do, and just by answering some questions, it's like a psychological quick test, you could find out what your primary language is and what your partner speaks or what your family members speak. If you're a mom or dad, what your kids speak, and you can learn how to deliver the message so that they receive it and that they feel loved. And it's all about giving that message in the way that the other person receives and not the way that you receive, because it could be different. And people might be expressing love, but you might not be receiving it because it's just not the way you receive love. Anyway, an amazing, life-changing book. I think this is awesome. Gary Chapman is my favorite author on relationships and interpersonal, connections and things like that. He's actually a relationship counselor, and he writes another book called The 5 Love Languages of Children. So if you're working in education or if you're a parent, that would be a great book to read too, about how your child receives love and how you can make sure that they feel loved all the time, as much as you can. Gary Chapman, amazing author, guys. If you haven't read his books, check them out. He also writes something called The Things I Wish I Knew Before I Got Married, and that's an excellent book, which I don't have here because it's at my parents' house. But I read it and it's awesome. Same author, another book is called The 4 Seasons of Marriage. I haven't completed reading this, but I think it's really good so far. But again, if you're going to choose one, I would choose The 5 Love Languages because it applies to so many different things. But if you're married and you want to read something about marriage in particular, this is kind of about how marriage is in always a state of transition and you're moving from one season to another. In the spring, you're hopeful. In the summer, you're so in love. In the fall, you're feeling a little doubt. In the winter, you're like mad at each other or something. You hate the world. I don't know. In the winter, you feel distant and dissatisfied. And how everything is cyclical, just like the seasons and just like other things in life. And there's 4 seasons to marriage, and it does repeat itself. It does come back. You can renew it. You can encourage the next season to come along, and that's what this book is about. So it's kind of an interesting read too. This next book is called Marriage Meetings for Lasting Love, and I guess the word marriage is kind of like, it can mislead you because this is about any kind of relationship, whether it be with a sibling, a mother, a father, whatever. It could be for anybody. And it's really about connecting and how to communicate. And at the back, actually, it tells you all about ways to communicate if you have a money conflict, if you have an in-law conflict, if you have just a conflict in general. Communication techniques are at the back, which is cool. And what's interesting about it is they say that there's 4 things that you should talk about every week with your significant other, and they are appreciation. The first thing you should do is appreciate something about them. And then the next thing you should talk about is chores, any chores that are ongoing that have to do, like, whatever has to happen around the house in your immediate future. Planning for the good times, making sure you're scheduling a date or planning something fun to do together and reconnect. And then addressing any problems and challenges that might be coming up or that keep repeating themselves or things like that. So anyway, it's just an interesting book on communication and having open communication, and I love the cover. How cute is this? Perfect for Valentine's, I think, and a good read. And since this is a video about love and relationships, I had to include one of my hubby's favorites too. He would be probably annoyed that I didn't include this if I didn't, but it is a great book and a great read, and it's called Smart Couples Finish Rich. and it's by David Bach, who also wrote The Automatic Millionaire, which is also an amazing book. And it just gives you financial tips and interesting insight on combining your finances or keeping them separate, or just applying certain methodology to make sure that you have money in the bank and you can finish rich. So it's a great book. I think from Automatic Millionaire, some of my takeaways were to reduce your latte factor, which basically means like the money you would spend on a latte every day, $5 give or take. That money, if you don't spend it and you take your coffee from home, or you try to reduce the amount you spend on those little things, they would add up to a big amount, and you could save that and have something to count for. And then another one is to pay yourself first. So every paycheck, you make sure that you pay yourself automatically through the bank, like make an automatic payment to your savings and to your retirement, or to whatever it is that you're looking to save for. And make sure that you deal with that first, because if it just stays in your checking account, chances are you're going to spend it and you won't be using it wisely. So that's another tip, and definitely a great read. So another one that I highly recommend. And that's it, guys. A little something for everyone, whether you're single, dating, engaged, married, or been married for years. There's definitely something that you could find, I think, interesting in these books. And personally, they are books that have either really inspired me or just been a good read and like funny. Some of them are interesting, and some of them are great for personal growth and self-love too. So I hope you enjoy some of them, and if you have a book that you want to recommend to me, I would love to hear about it. Leave me a comment down below. Make sure you subscribe for new videos, and happy Valentine's Day, guys. See you in the next one.